What's up, good people? My name is AJ. I am a CFA charter holder and an associate at a wealth management firm. And in this video, I'm talking about my personal decision or story to pursue the CFA charter. So I'm kind of gonna frame this in two parts. One will be my little bit of the professional background on how I got to the point where I decided that for my career it would make sense to pursue the charter. And then second will be, once I knew it made sense for my career, what did I have to decide personally to get myself to the point to sign up for the level 1 exam. So I'll go back to about age 20, being a sophomore in college. And I wanted to work in wealth management, and I didn't know exactly what area of wealth management I wanted to be in, but I think around that point started to learn about the CFA charter. Being the gold standard in investment management, of course it was attractive. So I read up on it, got a better understanding of what the program was. At the time, to me, it sounded like the most difficult test in the world, and wanted to make sure that with my future career path, it would make sense for the work that I was doing. So during my junior year in college, I was looking for internships in wealth management, mostly with RIAs. If I were to land in the types of positions that I was hoping to land in, my goal was then to pursue the CFA charter after that, because most of the most successful people in those positions, the type of positions that I was looking for during my junior year, were CFA charter holders. And so I thought it made a lot of sense for the work that I was doing, or hoping to do. So I had an internship after my junior year of college, so this would be age 21, at an RIA that manages portfolios for high net worth individuals and institutions, and they only pick stocks, so no manager selection. They were typically mid-cap stock managers, growth and value, and didn't have a specific tilt or focus in the mid-cap space other than beating the mid-cap indexes. And it was a great firm to work at. I learned a lot during that internship. Through it, I decided that I did not want to be an equity research analyst or a stock picker. I thought that the job wasn't all that fun. It was really difficult. I think that even the people who make a full-time career out of it in a lot of cases don't do better. Well, we know just by statistics, a lot of them don't do better than the benchmarks anyway. And the firm that I interned with, they, over I think 20 years, had beaten their benchmark, but over the last 5 and 7 hadn't. And so I'm thinking, all these people are in the office. It was a small office, but these handful of people in the office for the last 7 years every day, and their clients would have been better off if they had bought an ETF and a Schwab account or something. It's like, not that I don't want to be critical of the industry. This was just my personal thinking when I had that internship at age 21. And when I decided that I didn't want to go into that specific field of finance, I also kind of decided at that point that I wouldn't pursue the CFA charter, because the second part of that decision was, okay, well, where do I want to work in finance? And that was in financial planning. So more working directly with clients, meeting face-to-face, things like that. And the CFP is a designation that's much more applicable to financial planning, of course, than the CFA charter is. So then mostly through my senior year of college, which is age 22 in the US typically, I was planning to pursue the CFP charter after getting a full-time job, and I started to apply for jobs in wealth management, and specifically with financial planning firms. So I got a job in a position that I was really happy with and enjoying the work. I did the required governmental regulatory licenses in the United States, so the Series 7 and 66, and an insurance license. Then the next conversation I had with my boss kind of changed everything. And I'll add too that while I was a customer service person at the firm that I was working at, finishing these licenses and trying to get towards the position of being client facing, a lot of the work that I was picking up on or taking on in the firm that I was at was related to investment selection. And I had a lot of interest in it because that's what I did throughout my days in university, in college, and I also just liked it a lot growing up. I thought investment selection was a cool thing to do and help clients choose what they want to use to hopefully grow their wealth. So it's a really powerful tool, and I really like that part of the job. And so because of those interests that I had, my company was good about shifting some of my responsibilities towards jobs and tasks that related to those interests. So some of those things were joining the investment committee. I was doing a lot of note-taking, record-keeping, and performance measurement for our investment committee on the models that the firm managed, doing some documentation, Excel workbook collection, data collection, putting together client deliverables for investment portfolios, and that type of work that tended to lean itself more towards investment research activities. So the one important day was after maybe a week after I had finished all the licenses, and I had been working there for about maybe 9 months at the time. And I sat down with my manager, and he kind of started to discuss. It was in a regular one-on-one meeting, and then the conversation shifted to future designations and future goals, and I fully expected him to bring up the CFP chart. There are a couple advisors in the firm who are CFP professionals, and I was planning in kind of leaning in that direction. He told me during that meeting that the two partners of the firm wanted me to pursue the CFA charter. So I was a little bit shocked. I was at a loss for words because it was just really unexpected. I thought we were going to be talking about the CFP designation, and I had started doing some reading on my own about the CFP and what that looked like. Also, there were no other CFA charter holders at the firm at the time, so I knew that he and the two partners didn't really know all that much about the CFA charter and exactly what it entailed, so I was kind of surprised that they were asking me to pursue it. Eventually I learned basically they understood the CFA charter to be the gold standard in investment selection and wanted someone in the firm to be a CFA charter holder, and so that's kind of where they came to the decision on asking me to pursue that. They totally gave me the option. They said, hey, this is what we're thinking, but we want you to go back and make the consideration, talk to your wife, whatever, and decide if this is something that you think is going to be right for you. So I left that meeting. I was extremely excited, extremely unsure, because again, I had planned on pursuing the CFA charter for years previously, and then just in the last year started leaning more towards the CFP. For the CFA to be an option again and kind of just thrown on the table in front of me was, I don't know, it was a cool experience. It was kind of bringing back a lot of the old thoughts that I had, and it was an opportunity for me to become the investment professional in the role that I was already working in. The second part of this decision then is, do I want to commit to the time that it requires to earn the CFA charter? And I spent a lot of time with my wife talking about this over the next 2 weeks, I think, because she had known what it was since I had talked about it while we were dating, when I was in college, and then understood that I had shifted focuses, and now, just like it was a surprise to me when my manager brought it up to me when I went home that day and told her that I had had this conversation, it was a big surprise to her because she knew it was something I wanted to do in the past, but didn't think it was something I would end up pursuing at that point. The primary conversation we had was, hey, do we want to give up our early 20s, sacrifice our early 20s? Because at that point, when I was considering if I wanted to do it or not, I wanted to know what the time commitment for me would be. So I kind of started to put together my study plan and spent a lot of time researching what other people were doing to study for these exams. So I knew it was going to be a large amount of time. You can watch my other videos to look at how I decided to come up with my study plan, but that was the information we were basing this decision off of. So it came to giving up our early 20s and all the freedom that we could have during those years to pursue a professional designation. Is it worth sacrificing every evening for 3 years in your personal life to try to further your professional life? And it's an interesting conversation to have, and it's a decision that probably everyone would make differently. I'm not someone who I would typically, if you know me personally, and you heard about this type of decision having to be made, you'd say, no, AJ's not going to pursue that. It's not worth sacrificing personal life for a professional life. But of course, eventually made the decision to pursue the charter. I think the deciding factors were the gold standard aspect. I wanted to do everything I could to be seen as qualified as possible to do the job that I was doing. And in some cases, the CFA charter overqualifies me for some of the work that I do. In other cases, not. But also that it was the most difficult challenge that I think I would be able to face in my professional career. I just wanted to try something that was the hardest thing that you can do. And if I failed, I failed. I was totally okay with that mentality. And then I would move on to something else. But I thought it would be fun to see exactly how you could reach for in terms of academic achievement. And so I know PhDs and other things are more difficult than the CFA charter, but from my consideration and for what I was planning out for, my own next 5 or 10 years, the CFA charter was the highest level or the most difficult achievement to reach for. So that was an exciting thought as well. Furthers your career prospects, you can make more money, get more job opportunities, whatever. So my wife was fond of that side of the coin. And for those 3 reasons, those primary reasons, we said, hey, let's go for it. Ended up being a huge time commitment and learned a ton through the program, passed the exams, which I'm extremely happy and grateful for. And looking back on it now, I think it was probably the right decision. if I had the same information that I have now early on when I was 22, when I was considering starting with the charter, I don't know if I would have made the same decision. I might have, but it would have influenced a little bit more again. So that's why I say it's always weird how someone would come to the decision on whether or not to pursue that charter. And depends on what information you have flowing through your brain at that point in your life. You know, some people do it earlier on, some people later, probably for those reasons, and that's fine. But I would say I'm glad I got it behind me in case I ever decided that I would want to pursue it in the future again. And if anyone else has any cool comments, so if anyone wants to share their own CFA decision stories or have any questions about mine, feel free to mention it in the comment sections below. Thanks.